Welcome everyone. This webinar is brought to you by Inacos and Klein & Company. We are launching a new longevity webinar series in partnership with Klein & Company, and this is the first of the 3 seasons. So why Klein & Company? The consumer product practice covers personal care, home care, and over-the-counter and help us to see what consumers are really doing, not just what brands are saying. So from cosmetics and toiletries to salon hair care to professional skincare, they track how the categories are changing, how channels are shifting, and where the growth is coming from. And with Klein Pro, they're bringing in real transactional data, actual behavior, not just assumptions or surveys. So leading this, Carrie Melange, with more than 20 years of experience in the industry. She is not just watching the shift towards longevity, she is seeing exactly how it's playing out across categories, channels, and business models. And at Inacos, we are putting that insight into action, helping brands turn longevity into real-world formulas and strategies. So that's the lens we would share with you today. Welcome.
Thank you, Irina, for inviting us. And we're so thrilled to be doing this webinar series in collaboration with you. For those who aren't familiar with Klein, we are a market research and advisory firm, and we help hundreds of companies and emerging players identify opportunities and understand where to play, how to win. Beauty is one of the main industries that we serve. We have a wealth of expertise in this industry and track deep insights, tracking consumer trends, behavior, innovation strategies, etc. Beauty is just one of the industries that we serve. We also have deep expertise in chemicals and materials, energy, and food and nutrition. And longevity as a megatrend is impacting 3 of the 4 industry verticals that we serve. And our clients have been coming to us increasingly to help them understand and make decisions in this space. When it comes to beauty, especially, our legacy is in the chemicals and ingredients, which means we track the full value chain. And this helps us to identify which ingredient innovations are enabling shifts, which suppliers are winning, how brands are translating it, and how it's performing in the market. Next slide, please. Thanks, Corinne. So Corinne is joining me today, as well as Anna Ibbotson. They are both colleagues with me here at Klein. Corinne is a project manager on my team in the beauty space, and then Anna heads up our chemicals and materials practice when it comes to ingredients in cosmetics and our reporting, our syndicated reporting there. So our agenda for today is first starting out, like, how are we even defining longevity? It means so many things to so many people, so we'll kind of level set on what we're even talking about. Then I'll turn it over to Corinne, who will give us more of a perspective on the consumer landscape and its impact specifically on the beauty market. And then together we'll look ahead at the outlook and opportunities for all market participants. So going ahead to defining longevity, I mean, consumers are approaching longevity through multiple lenses. When it comes to, I think at its core is that preventative health and medical. So there's diagnostics, there's clinics, there's care models. GLP-1s certainly shaking up the space here, different regenerative therapies. We see in food and nutrition as well that there's different ingredients, different lifestyles, different kind of choices consumers are making to help improve their overall health and longevity well-being through wellness lifestyle optimization, whether it's sleep, supplements, wearables, etc. Fitness performance monitoring through strength, mobility, metabolic health. Also cognitive, mental and cognitive well-being is certainly an aspect here that goes in hand with kind of emotional well-being, emotional resilience. Looking then at beauty and skin health is really focusing our conversation today, really looking at the skin health span, regenerative aesthetics, Technology also fits well in here in terms of tracking, personalization, and then being plugged into community. There's different care models, different community models that kind of help augment the overall picture when it comes to longevity. And for beauty brands, this means you're not only competing with other beauty products, but you're adjacent to other wellness platforms, supplements, devices, clinics, that consumers are looking at the space as a whole and are looking for solutions for data-driven health solutions. So, longevity, it's not just niche anymore. It's become quite mainstream. And as it continues to grow, it's poised to attract even more attention from investors, from researchers, and consumers. We're seeing really heavy investment from venture capital, from private equity and strategic players across, clinics, biotech, diagnostics, consumer brands, and it's becoming less framed as medical intervention and more as really a lifestyle upgrade. GLP-1s are a really great example of this shift. They've moved from beyond just weight loss and more into broader conversations around health span, prevention of disease, and also aesthetics. And this has brought consumers into medical spas for weight loss management. And it's been seeing positive growth largely because of what's happening with GLP-1 and driving growth in the medical spa space, and especially in professional beauty. And beauty is being pulled into this narrative, whether brands actively pursue it or not. Going on to the next slide, but especially as interesting is the way consumers are engaging with longevity. We've seen a rise in outlets that are specializing in longevity, offering services to prolong health span. These destinations are multidisciplinary. They combine medicine, beauty, fitness, nutrition, all under one roof. They're not traditional spas or clinics. They're integrated ecosystems. Beauty is positioned as part of that, as in optimizing the journey, but it's not just like a one-off, I'm going to get a massage, I'm going to go, relax for the day. It's really approaching it as a holistic experience. And that really sets a new benchmark for what premium even means. It raises the expectations for beauty brands that want to play in this space. And with that, I'll turn it over to Corinne, who will walk us through the consumer perspective.
Thank you, Carrie. So today, for the consumer perspective, we talked about longevity at a high level, but let's zoom into ultimately consumers who are driving this movement. They are driving this by their changing motivations, their needs, their fears, and priorities. So demographic trends, people are expected to live longer. We know this already, but to ground this in reality, let's start with the macro picture. From a population and demographic perspective, the world is adjusting to longer lifespans, and we see this clearly in the data. Not only are populations aging, but their expected age of death is continued to move outward. So what's really important here is just that consumers are realizing that they're getting older and they're thinking about that. They're starting to make plans and how can they make sure that they're living a long life, but in a healthy way. Even teens and younger generations are aware that they're likely to live in their 80s and 90s now. And that really fundamentally changes how they think about their quality of life. Longevity is becoming a life planning mindset, not an end life concern. Longevity is really a broader consumer trend outside of beauty, as Carrie was saying. So when we look at conversation around longevity and Healthspan more broadly online, what is clear is that this trend is already well established and it exists largely outside of beauty. Mentions of longevity related topics are steadily rising. It's reflecting really that growing concern more so around personal health across generations. Gen X and baby boomers, they tend to express the highest concerns, which makes sense given their life stage. They're starting to gear up of what's next and how can they prepare as they get older and they start to feel it in their body. But what's really interesting is that millennials stand out in terms of willingness to act, and they're really having action drivers here. And when we look at what people are actually willing to change to live healthier lives, millennials are really thinking about almost all different behaviors, such as diet, sleep, stress, and exercise. And we will see that trickle down, especially millennials is a key generation, but we're going to start to see that trickle down from Gen Z and even younger generations itself. Gen X and boomers may recognize the need for healthier habits, but millennials are the group that are actually targeting and implementing changes today. And this really matters when we look at just looking at all the different life stages from a horizontal perspective here. So really beauty plays that different role dependent on age. So prime target is 50 and younger is where we're starting to see that beauty and longevity. For consumers roughly 20 to 50 years old, longevity is close to tied to beauty. And while we're seeing 50 and beyond is prevention, maintaining prime time, and optimizing appearance alongside health. As consumers move beyond 50, they emphasize that strong with the health, and beauty really becomes secondary. So there are some important overlaps. Supplements are a great example. So really you're fixing supplements inwards to reflect an outwards appearance and overall improvement. But that's just a great example. But overall, the framework helps to explain where beauty fits in longevity journey at different life stages. So just to zoom into beauty and longevity online conversation itself, so really the intersection, we're seeing this clear pattern. Since early 2024, mentions have consistently stayed in the high tens of thousands with the clear upward trajectories. Consumers are already making a strong association with beauty and longevity, and we do not see this slow down. So it's really interesting holistically seeing that consumers are the ones that are making the connections, and they are looking for solutions to optimize longevity, but also beauty itself. And when we look at where is this conversation happening, and this is great just to know in general where to find this information and also aid marketing itself. But we are seeing, of course, a lot of this information is driven by news. So, of course, we're seeing that reposted on X. But again, Reddit has been a really interesting source of information that we've seen of consumers going there and looking for solutions and having conversations. So this tells us that this conversation is starting to really upstream, but it's really being shaped by media and experts. But we're seeing that trickle down, especially to the more consumer-facing platforms. So consumers are talking about really that science-backed products to remove inward and outward appearance. So again, and a lot of the solutions that they're looking for, they're asking questions and they're looking at how can they optimize this to really find what fits them. And to zoom into a bit further, what are people actually saying about longevity and beauty by generation? When we really break into this conversation by generation, the differences are very clear. Millennials tend to focus on that anti-aging and prevention. Well, Gen X shows really strong interest when it comes to GLP and Ozempic related conversation. But then we're also seeing baby boomers over-index on peptides. So really the takeaway is that one group isn't the right fit when it comes to beauty and longevity. And this really means different things for different life stages. So for brands, we need to meet where the consumer's at in their journey. And this really just reinforces those narratives that we're seeing. So there's not a one size fit all when it comes to a longevity message. And then again, we're seeing these conversations, especially on TikTok. We always see this correlation when it comes to TikTok and then even to Google searches, to Instagram posts, but really the hot topic that we're seeing to elevate this conversation of longevity and beauty is that peptide conversation. We're still keeping eyes, of course, on retinol and retinols, but also exosomes itself. But peptides are really that driving conversation, and it's creating a lot of buzz in the US. So let's look into further how and what is the longevity's impact on the beauty market itself, specifically some of the professional channel itself. So when we take a step back and look at the broader beauty landscape, professional skincare stands out because it really operates in the intersection of credibility, performance, and meeting evolving consumers' expectations. That's where we see a lot of innovation are coming through when it comes to longevities. Consumers today are they're more educated, they're more skeptical, but they're looking not just for nice to have products, but they're looking for proof, expertise, and outcomes. And again, that's really where there's this advantage of how professional skincare brands can talk to consumers, especially with the more sophisticated formulations from mass and prestige. So really professional skincare has built this model for years, and it continues to outperform the broader market. But really what is changing, it's underlying desire and still want. And so for example, consumers still have visible and anti-aging results, but what's really being changed is that narrative of reframing how products, for example, longevity, that is reframing skincare around skin health span, long-term performance, and it's not just reversing aging itself. It's that emphasis on regeneration, barrier resistance, inflammation control, and recovery, especially around treatments, extensions, and post-procedure maintenance. That's where we're really seeing this space come, and brands are talking to consumers with that, of that regenerative science. And we're seeing that really be branded to longevity. Again, longevity allows brands to move beyond just that single hero ingredients. And what we've seen in the past is always retinols and retinoids, but really is that system and protocols and regimens. And then again, really longevity isn't just this ingredient story, it's this philosophy. So just to hone into how has this professional skincare market can speak to consumers. In general, the market is built on medical credibility. This is due to how brands and products are formulated with doctor and physician backed. But then also it's being endorsed by professionals. It's being adopted in the office and then also for take home. This really builds in that consumer trust because it's coming from your medical provider. But then it also really pulls through in retail itself. So it's built on that medical oversight, clinical validation, product are designed for long-term skin health, not just quick cosmetic fixes, but it allows that treatment extensions from in-office to post-office to recovery and maintenance. But again, that professional environment and set-in really normalizes science-led and preventative care. And with a recent survey that we ran with physicians, we do research, as Carrie said, all the time when it comes to the professional market. We do a mix of market sizing, but also qualitative and quantitative analysis with physicians. So we recently conducted a survey, and this is a survey we do on a yearly basis, but it really shows how our physicians trying to adjust to consumer needs and really be able to provide that. So for example, zooming into services and products that are on the radar and what they're servicing currently to their patients is weight loss injections, weight loss management. But we're starting to see as well this increase in shift to light therapy, LED facial, vitamin injections, even health coaching itself. So really that nutrient prevention and health and wellness coaching are also being considered on top of all this. But then we're also seeing this increase in hair regrowth, also even female health and vaginal rejuvenation to nutraceutical, to skin cancer and diagnosis and prevention services. So all these new or all these services that physicians are offering to their patients, it's all around longevity. We're seeing that with their offering itself. And then one great market that we're seeing really on the rise is exosomes. So exosomes has emerged as a significant innovation in the professional skincare space. And it's really representing this move towards regenerative beauty, and which is really grounded in that cellular science. So for example, zooming into the exosome market and professional channel, this market is really new. It launched back in 2019 with a lot of pioneers, and one pioneer, for example, is Benev, launching their exosome regenerative complex. But this market has built in the professional channel, and it's done that in the sense that the science is so complex so that the physicians have been able to really describe and show their patients the additive benefits of this technology when it comes to products. And there is a whole lot of different types of products when it comes to exosomes, especially when it comes to its source. So for example, we have human-derived, which we see a lot of the professional brands are based on human-derived, to also plant-derived. We're seeing the mass market lean into the plant-derived and even to the lab synthesis to bacteria-derived itself. But overall, this market has been on the rise, and we do not see this market slowing down by any means. And a perfect example is seeing how the mass market has entered in the space with, for example, Inculus and even Medicube, since it is really talking about longevity and that regenerative science of communicating with your cells. And some examples of exosome key product types is, of course, back bar. So how is it being applied in the office? And this is really looking at professional services and aesthetic service, such as microneedling and laser treatment, to also home care itself. So we're seeing a lot more products in the home care, but it's very important that back bar, and we see these overall dynamics in the professional skincare market itself, is that relationship of back bar to also home care itself. And the market is really, the bulk of the market is the professional market itself, but we are seeing these new lead-in retail brands. And really the key characteristics is that plant-derived, bacteria-derived, or lab synthesis, and really that retail D2C distribution to also social media. So we're seeing those brands of, for example, Dr. Barbara Stern that offers a very prestige product around 300 plus, to even Medicube offering a product around $30, to Inculus. But really the lead-in professional brands that have been leading the charge of this market is Plated, Anti-Age, Skin Medica, and Elevai. But really the market challenges that are coming with talking about and speaking to this innovation is really this regulatory gray zone and FDA scrutiny, especially when it's starting to talk about your cell levels. So it's really challenging to make claims. And there's a lot of limitation, especially when it comes to clinical evidence without doing full trials. There's also a lot of confusion with sources. So what's the best for your skin? But in general, we're seeing these dynamics of MOCA that really rises the bar for compliance. So Klein, we are really in tuned in this market, and we expect that this market will change and will even evolve to hair, for example, and et cetera. But there is a lot of challenges, especially when you're talking about technology like this. So this is something that we're definitely keeping an eye out. And then with a recent survey for physicians, we did ask a question of really the perceptions of topical exosome skincare products and how is their practice approaching this. So really, as this market is really physician professional skincare led, so physicians, they're really starting to, the main approach is that education. So they're approaching it with educating their patients on especially the technology and the different treatments, to sampling. Sampling has been very key, offering discounts, especially since some of these exosome products are very costly to consumers. They can cost from $200 plus north to $400. Again, there's that clinical bundling, so that services and product has been a great opportunity. And then we've also seen this dynamic of physicians, like they're trying to figure out the best way to position this, especially the price, especially when, you want to be more cost sensitive with some of your consumers and patients, especially struggling with that premium position, that justification. But again, the overall perception that physicians are seeing is that topical exosomes are good. They're a good complement to other products on the market. They're seeing that, patients are a little bit hesitant due to the price. They're also just so new and there needs to be more data. But again, we're seeing this superior visible results coming from topical exosomes. But This market will especially shift and change as it grows and new players enter the space and further investment itself. So again, just to reiterate, this market is really professional-led and built. 42 of dispensing physicians view topical exosome as a strong complement to other products, but again, it's that price sensitivity and limited clinical data really remains that primary barrier. In the near future, we see this market continuing to grow. There's been a lot of investment and acquisition within this market, and especially acquiring, for example, brands like Elevai, that brands that really have been one of the first to the markets. But then also we're seeing this proliferation of plant-derived and lab, especially as more mass brands enter the space. But again, this overall exosome technology, this speaks to a much larger need than just skincare. There is, of course, this technology could be used for even wound care, and on and beyond, and even hair loss. So we're really excited to see how this technology shapes not even skincare, but overall different markets itself. And then just to highlight some other regenerative science that we're seeing, especially when it comes to life stage, peptides, and GLP-1s. So life stage skin concern, we've really seen this on the rise. For example, menopause and premenopause are creating a distinct growing clinical demand, especially in professional skincare. And that's where we're starting to see them address. For example, with brands like PCA and also Skin Better, really creating products to target that renewal, and that's how we're seeing it. But 1.3 women in the United States start menopause each year. That's around 6,000 women daily. And again, really when it comes to that is that loss of collagen and a lot of other different concerns itself. But again, 47 women report that they never even told how menopause may even influence their skin and hair. So we're seeing this dynamic and this need, and brands are starting to fill that and really talk to consumers of how they can solve that need. Peptides, as we saw from social, peptides has really dominated the conversation, but brands are increasingly leveraging multi-peptide complexes to really target that collagen synthesis, outcomes of barrier repairs. So we do not see this market slowing down by any means. 72 of dispensing physicians cited that fine lines and wrinkles are leading patient concerns. Even 46% said sagging skin and loss of elasticity were treated in the past year. And we're seeing a lot of brands even launch products in this space. Some of the ones that launched for example, Elastins, Restorative Skin Complex, to Zeo Skin, Peptide Facial Refining Concentrate. So this market is not slowing down, and we definitely see this on the forefront, especially when it comes to the longevity market and beauty as a whole. And then GLP-1s, we can't ignore this market. We're seeing a lot, for example, of brands entering this market and speaking to these consumers itself. In general, GLP-1s was such a breakthrough drug, and it's really reshaping aesthetic demands, especially professional skincare and brands are on the forefront. Brands and treatments, for example. 7% of non-surgical aesthetic procedures revenue came from weight loss injections. 24% of physician practice added weight loss management services, and 25% of consumers, actually from a recent survey, reported that they are on GLP-1s. And these are actually looking at consumers that go to medical spas that are more that aesthetic focus consumer itself. But again, this is not slowing down, and there's expected even 30 million Americans to be on GLP treatments by 2030. So ways that, of course, concerns that come from GLP-1s and just honing into skincare itself is really the weight loss when it comes to skin. So, for example, the sunken eyes, saggy skin, increased wrinkles. But we are seeing this, especially looking at our survey data, our percentage of dispensing physicians by lead-in skin condition. We are seeing this rise of really treating the saggy skin, elasticity, cellulite, and skin texture. So it is impacted at the office itself, and we're seeing that with our physicians that we survey. But again, this has been a really exciting space for brands to enter in this space and create, first off, products that speak to GLP-1 users, but also claims as well. So for example, SkinCeuticals launched a product that's really around like a lift serum, and then also to combat collagen breakdown and visibility tighten skin. So it's been clinically tested on users of weight loss itself. Image Skincare, they introduced the product itself, so their volume lift skin rebound complex. So it was really the first topical formulation clinically tested on individuals with GLP-1 on facial changes, supported by a 12-week study. That was exciting. That was happened last year. And then also Elevai itself. So we're seeing they're launching, especially the products around muscle loss prevention, and then Galderma too. So Galderma, especially when it comes to Sculptra. So we're seeing this shift, especially when it comes to the, for example, the Botox market, but the need really for Sculptra to really help shape injectable treatments and really fix some of the loss of skin too. Outlook and opportunities. I will actually pass this over to Anna now.
Thanks, Corinne. So Klein's chemicals practice has been delivering insights and analytics to the personal care ingredient space for several decades now, with more recent focus around specialty actives. These are active ingredients which provide key functional benefits within personal care products and fall well within the longevity space. So as we've heard from Corinne, longevity is redefining what consumers expect from their skincare routines, shifting the focus towards proactive, regenerative, and science-backed solutions, and therefore creating new opportunities for the ingredient producers. The active ingredients industry is diverse, as you can see here. It's valued at just over $2 billion in relation to the longevity space, and peptides are leading the growth charge at 7% CAGR. Biotech-derived actives include the peptides, but we've shown them separately here on the pie chart. But together, they account for an estimated 40% of the global active ingredients market under the anti-aging and longevity umbrella. Advances in biotech and natural solutions, driven by the desire in part for sustainable offerings, are enabling deeper, more targeted approaches to skin aging. Aging well has accelerated the adoption of several key biotech platforms, including fermentation-derived actives, bioidentical peptides, algae and cell cultured derived materials. As a result, biotech longevity ingredients are emerging as category leaders. This shift signals differentiation at the supplier level, driven by science and manufacturing capability, rather than just brand storytelling alone. And for suppliers, this is a clear advantage. Biotech helps address both sustainability and performance. It supports consistent claims across global markets and also reduces the reliance on natural sourcing. So together, these factors position biotech as a core enabler of premium longevity innovation. In addition, delivery systems are becoming increasingly important, as discussed on exozymes. This reflects a clear shift in where the market is focusing longevity performance. Increasingly, efficacy is evaluated not only on the presence of the actives in the formulation, but on whether the formula can deliver these actives with sufficient consistency, stability, and site-specific exposure. Delivery systems are therefore moving from a supporting function to a primary value driver, both for product performance and for the claims architecture. Ingredient suppliers are therefore strengthening their position by pairing longevity actives with delivery platforms that are easier to substantiate and communicate about, such as the encapsulation technologies, targeted penetration systems, time release or stress activated delivery systems. In practice, these systems enable a more precise, defensible longevity narrative and are creating opportunities again within the personal care industry. So suppliers who can bundle actives into coherent longevity systems early will win, and they'll play more strategic roles in the formulation process, helping to develop higher value contracts over longer time periods and helping substantiate efficacy. while also assisting the brand with the ability to purchase fewer SKUs. Finally, and briefly, nutracosmetics. There is increasing interest for beauty from within products, delivering active ingredients in a more measured dosage, such as gummies, tablets, sachets, drinks, and so on. This again is providing opportunities for the active ingredient suppliers with new channels to market across both beauty, as we've heard about, and also nutrition. So with consumers seeking long-term performance, suppliers of biotech, high-performance natural actives, and advanced delivery systems expand possibility and provide opportunities for the brands to develop portfolios of aging well products. I'll pass back to Carrie.
Thanks, Anna, and thanks, Corinne, for sharing so many interesting tidbits from our research. I especially love the one we just completed with the positions. I'm so glad we were able to include some of those highlights here. And thanks to Anna for including, how the ingredient suppliers can take advantage of the opportunities here. I'll now kind of conclude it with opportunities for beauty finished goods marketers. The first of which is really owning skin health span, not just age correction, really moving beyond episodic treatment to long-term performance. Longevity really reframes skincare around barrier resilience, inflammation control, regeneration, and recovery, rather than just wrinkles alone. The second area is science-led premiumization, charge for mechanism, not mystique. So this kind of piggybacks off what Anna was just saying in terms of the delivery systems. Longevity has unlocked permission for beauty brands to talk about cellular resilience, DNA pathways, biotech-derived actives like peptides and exosomes. And this can all be central to defining your USP and your premium positioning and price. The next one is to think about beyond the facial skincare into other areas of the body, hair, body, scalp, really redefine aging across the entire surface of the body. Longevity logically applies naturally to hair and scalp health with follicle density, follicle vitality, density preservation, inflammation control, body care with barrier repair, glycation prevention, skin recovery, as well as intimate and oral care. Next, we can look at hybrid models, combining kind of at-home and clinical ecosystems that we saw are becoming so popular and popping up everywhere. Actually, there's one just opening in my town, I just heard, at the town next door. So, longevity aligns beauty with aesthetic procedures, devices, LED microcurrent, etc., post-procedure recovery and maintenance. And brands can position products as procedure extenders, recovery accelerators, and maintenance layers between clinical treatments. Next is to think about earlier access points. This will generate longer lifetime value, sell longevity before visible aging begins. Younger consumers more and more are engaging through prejuvenation, collagen banking, microbiome protection, stress, sleep, and inflammation narratives. And this really enables brands to build habit-forming foundational products that capture consumers in their, even as early as their teens. I have a teen who was much more savvier about ingredients and skincare health than I ever was at her age. And really capture consumers at that early age and with positive messaging. And this can help capture and extend lifetime value by decades. And lastly, longevity can be a platform for personalization and AI, really make outcomes measurable, trust-based. We can use diagnostics here to inform with facts and real data. Longevity naturally pairs well with diagnostics and biomarkers. We can lean to AI-driven personalization, have longitudinal tracking of skin performance, and this creates space for data-backed claims, adaptive regimens over time, and building deeper trust through evidence, not just promises. And overall, what this really strategically means for beauty brands, longevity allows brands to escape the short-term churn and move from products to systems to outcomes that can be measurable, that can be backed on science, and it's not only storytelling. This really helps to align beauty with the mega market of health span economy without needing to become medical. We've been discussing that longevity is bigger than beauty, but beauty can increasingly become a core gateway into the longevity space. And with that, we invite you to continue to have the conversation with us. We have a full team, both on the finished goods side as well as the ingredient side, that really helps our clients understand where to play, how to win. We have so many capabilities across the spectrum, whether it's competitor intelligence, market assessment opportunity, go-to-market strategy, prediction and trend forecasting, and just broader strategy, etc. We invite you to come speak with us. Our contact information is on this last page, and so you're welcome. We invite you, if there's any questions, feel free to reach out to any one of us or all of us. We'd be delighted to speak with you. Thank you for joining today.